Every time your color changes in this direction, you're stealing money out of business. Every time you've got cash flow moving or changes in colors going from red to yellow to green, you are creating gains in management. You can make more cash than you've made profit if you've got better management. Now, I said to you, I'm going to say something that will change your life. I spent the last 20 years of my life developing analysis techniques and tools. I've spoken around the world. Who of you are from Australia here? 2 of you from Australia. One of the biggest banks in Australia is the National Australia Bank. I spent the last 2 years with the CEO of the National Australia Bank speaking to their customers. And after 2 years, I realized none of them understood cash flow, like us today. And then I said, how do I make cash flow idiot-proof to anyone in the world? And I called it the power of one. There are 7 levers that a CEO has got to play with. I cannot fix a result. I can fix my inputs. If I want to fix cash, I can do it through prices, through volume, through cost of goods, through overheads, by collecting quicker, reducing inventory, and paying suppliers slower. Sitting on everyone's desk in your business should be, what do the 1%ers or one-day changes do to your cash? In other words, if I'm going to sit down with Gary, I'm going to say, Gary, I know nothing about furniture, but I understand the story of numbers. Gary, this is your power of one. Gary, you're purchasing out of China. Every 1% that you purchase better, you get a 406,000 better cash flow. Put up your prices by 1%, 187,000. 60% plus of companies I walk into, the volume is detrimental to cash. If you can give me the answer, you are brilliant. What are the 2 ratios I look at that tell me volume is bad for cash? Prove it to me. We've just been through it. So what are the 2 things I compare? Gross margin versus working capital. Gary is making 30 and borrowing 40. Whenever this is greater than that, volume is detrimental to cash. So what do we do? We turned around Gary's cash flow by about $4 million. What do? I say to Gary, let's see how many 1% or one-day changes do we need to make. And then you create in your company a little culture, a little educational program. You've got to explain to your marketing people, your operations people, what they're doing to your cash. Every person in your business needs to know what they're doing to your cash flow, and they need to think strategically how to improve the cash flow. But the power of one. I've created on the National Australia Bank website, it costs nothing. It's called the power of one. Just do a Google search. If you enter 6 numbers, it'll calculate everything I've done for you over here. But just go onto the National Australia Bank website, key in the power of one, and you will get the actual tool. And I've created a video on the bank's website as well. I'm now going to put my banking hat on. We business speak Spanish. Hopefully after today's session, every person in this room will be focusing on the 4 chapters. This comes out of the credit training course of about 100 banks. I've summarized the credit training course of some of the major banks. Only lend what the customer has the capacity and ability to repay. Now what happens to most companies I walk into They tell me the bank has got a good relationship with them. Remember, the person who you deal with in the bank is the relationship manager, the marketing person of the bank. The person who you never meet is the credit officer. Now, just going back one step, this is what happens. Whenever we speak Spanish, the bank speaks Portuguese, the bank looks at your cash as measured by your capacity to repay. Whenever the bank puts pressure on you, it means you've got a cash flow problem. If you've got a cash flow problem, it's either chapter 1 or chapter 2 or both. So I'm saying to you, the banks understand cash better than anyone. When you get pressure, you know this is an issue, this is the solution, adopt the power of one approach. So this is the way the credit guys think. Only lend what the customer has the capacity and ability to repay. If ever you're going to tell the bank about your business and your cash flow is the result of 7 drivers. If I want to educate the bank about my business, I say to the bank, price, volume, COGS, overheads, receivable, inventory, payables, and maybe fixed assets. Bank, these are my assumptions. This is the way I'm currently running the business, and these are the changes that I'm going to make going forward. So tell the bank, this is what's happening, these are the inputs into your business, how many 1%ers are we going to change in the business? And the bank says, wow, not too many changes, it looks realistic. Whenever the bank looks at your business, the bank is looking at the quality of your cash. Gary Furniture, you have borrowed 3.2 million. Are you borrowing money to fund your growth, or is the bank giving you money to fund Power of One changes in the wrong direction? Gary, do you have a fast growth problem? Whenever working capital is greater than gross margin, volume is detrimental. These are companies who are growing growth. The more you grow, the worse your cash gets. And you don't measure it and you don't know. Eventually the bank says to you, Gary, that's enough. Firstly, you cannot repay us. And secondly, we own most of your company. We do not want to own a furniture manufacturer. When the bank looks at your business, they're looking at changes in chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. When the bank lends you money, they give you covenants or lending criteria. If you breach a bank measure, the implication is you've got a cash flow problem. This is the black box in a bank. This is the way credit works in a bank. And credit is very similar to a professional investor. The first thing credit looks at is the management team. If ever you're going to apply for money at a bank, tell the bank who you are. The bank is backing your people and your management team. Tell the bank about your industry and where you position in your industry. Tell the bank about your business cycle. Are you a seasonal business? Tell the bank about your financing needs. Once the bank understands this, they will then say, how do we structure your deal? Can you repay us? What security do we want? And what reporting do we need? Now, ladies and gentlemen, banks price for risk. I'm going to make a big statement. This is what I'm finding in Australia, Asia, and the United States. I haven't been a lot into Europe. I'm sure Europe is the same. It is very difficult to find good deals for a bank. Those of you who are doing well and are borrowing money from the bank, I promise you your bank is screwing. If you're doing well, develop a credit paper and shop it around to all the banks and see who's got an appetite for your business. The banks cannot find good deals today. So if you're doing well and you're borrowing money, no bank ever phones you up and says, I'm charging you too much. So make sure you document your business, give it to all the banks, and see what their appetite for your risk is. If you're doing badly, make sure you treat the bank and give them as much information as possible, because the last place you want to be is in the hospital division of a bank. It's a very expensive and unpleasant exercise. The CEO of the National Australia Bank, I sat down with this gentleman and I said to him, you are one of the most experienced bankers in the world. What do you look at? And he said to me, I look at the word parcels. P-A-R-S-E-R-S. The first thing I look at is the person. If I don't like the person, I won't back the company, even if it's a good deal. The next thing I look at is the amount the company wants to borrow. Don't go to your bank and ask them for $1 million today, and in 3 months' time ask them for another $1 million. Tell the bank your financing needs today and over the next 12 months. Show the bank that you can repay them. Demonstrate to the bank that you've got cash flow that can repay your debt. The banks will want some security. Typically the banks say, we put in money into your business, we want you to put skin in the game as well. Expediency. If the bank is backing you for 6 projects, maybe the 7th project is now too much exposure to your business. Remuneration. A bank prices for risk. If you do not tell the bank about every risk that you've got in your business and how you're going to mitigate or lessen that risk, the bank will increase the rates that they're going to charge you. Tell the bank about your business and all the risks and give them a solution. And then obviously services. The more you do with the bank, the more negotiation that you've got. Before I end off, I would love you to bring your chairs in because I'm going to simulate a board meeting from what I've taught you. I'm now going to take exactly what I've taught you. I'm going to spend 5 minutes, but the numbers might be difficult to see. So if you cannot see these numbers, please come in. Is that clear? Can you see the numbers? This is the way I would conduct a board meeting in a company. And based upon what I've said to you today, I've been shouting here like a madman, my voice is about to go. This is a very difficult room to talk in.
Hello.
With the air conditioning and the sound. Thanks for that.
Hello. मैं पाकिस्तान में नहीं हूँ. Who's this?
A story of numbers consists of the 4 chapters and the bank. Gary Furniture. Chapter 1 of your story is profit. Every period, I can see that your profit is improving. However, Gary, the DuPont measure says to me, your profit and your balance sheet are equally important. You're growing your profit every period, Gary, but your balance sheet efficiency is declining. You're not generating enough revenue from that investment. And Gary, the reason your balance sheet is bad is every period you're selling, Gary. Hello? Am I back on? Yes.
Yeah.
Gary, every period, the reason your balance sheet's getting worse is, Gary, every time you increase your revenue, you're borrowing more and more money to fund your cycle. cash flow is the result of growth and changes in management. Gary, most of your cash flow has got nothing to do with your growth. Do you realize, Gary, compared to last period, you're borrowing 4 cents more per dollar to fund your working capital? As a result of that, Gary, you've borrowed 3.2 million. Because your cash flow is so bad, this is the #1 measure used by every bank around the world, and it's called debt service capacity. Whenever debt service capacity is below 1, it says to the bank the company doesn't have $1 to repay us for every dollar they owe us. Gary's got negative capacity to repay. I started today and I said this company believes they're doing brilliant. This company has only got one good measure, profit. The company's growing broke, the company cannot repay their bank, and it's about to get a very nasty experience. Gary, the only good news in your business is profit. And every period, your profit's going up. However, Gary, when I look at your balance sheet, as you can see, you're collecting slower, your inventories are climbing, and because you have got no money, you can't pay your suppliers. And Gary, when I compare your working capital to a clock, I can see your clock getting slower and slower. And by the way, Gary, whenever I see gross margin, I compare it to working capital. You're borrowing more in Chapter 2 than you're paying in Chapter 1. And Gary, let's have a look at your cash flow quality. So Gary, your revenue has grown by 20%. You borrowed 3.2 million. Gary, cash flow is the result of growth and changes in management. You have changed the way you run your business. You're collecting slower, your inventories are growing. So Gary, collecting slower has cost you $500,000. Gary, your inventory climbing has cost you $2 million. Overall, Gary, cash flow is the result of growth. Your changes in management cost you $1.7 million. The bank should only have given you $1.5 million to grow. And this is what people have got no idea about. I'm going to start and I'm going to end the same way. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash flow is king. And I'm going to end with a lovely little story about a company in Australia called Mike's Supermarket. I help a little supermarket near Melbourne. They're in country Victoria and they've never had any competition. And this year, the major supermarket chain in Australia opened up in the small town right next to mine. And on the first day they opened, the supermarket put a big sign in their window saying butter, $5 a kilo. And my client Mike put up a sign saying butter, $4 a kilo. And the supermarket immediately said butter, $3 a kilo. And Mike reacted by saying butter, 50 cents a kilo. And I went to this lovely man and I said to him, are you an idiot? I've been teaching you about cash flow and you've now killed your cash. And he looked at me in his very strong Australian accent and said, don't bloody worry about idiot, mate. I don't sell butter. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I hope